At 10 years old, I could not figure out what it was this Elvis Presley guy had that the rest of us boys did not have. I mean, he had a head, 2 arms, and 2 legs just like the rest of us. Whatever it was he had hidden away must have been pretty darn good, because he had every young girl at the orphanage wrapped around his little finger. About 9 o'clock on Saturday morning, I decided to ask Eugene Carruthers, one of the older boys, what it was that made this Elvis guy so special. He told me that it was Elvis's wavy hair and the way he moved his body. About a half an hour later, all the boys in the orphanage were called to the main dining room and told that we were all going to downtown Jacksonville to get a new pair of Buster Brown shoes and a haircut. That is when I got this big idea, which hit me like a ton of bricks. If the Elvis haircut was the big secret, then that's what I was going to get. All the way to town, that was all I talked about. The Elvis haircut that I was going to get. I told everybody, including the matron from the orphanage who was taking us to town, that I was going to look just like Elvis Presley, and that I would learn to move around just like he did, and that I would be rich and famous one day, just like him. We arrived at the shoe store, and each orphan got a pair of brand new Buster Brown shoes. I was very proud as I walked around the store because they shined really, really well, and I'd never had a new pair of shoes before. I got in line with the rest of the boys, and we were told to place our shoes into this special machine. It would allow the salesman to see through our shoes to see if they fit correctly. When it was my turn, I stuck my shoes into the slots, and I looked down through the little eyepieces that were located on the top of the machine. "How can that do that?" I yelled out when I saw the bones inside my feet. "It's called a fluoroscope machine," said the shoe store guy. "I can see right through my shoes and even through my skin, and it makes the bones in my feet look all green-colored," I said, laughing out loud. We left the shoe store and headed to the barber shop. I could hardly wait for my new haircut, and now that I had my new Buster Brown shoes, I would be very happy to go back to the orphanage and practice being like Elvis. We finally arrived at the big barber shop, where they cut our hair for free because we were orphans. I ran up to one of the barber chairs and climbed up onto the board which the barber had put across the arms to make me sit up higher. I looked at the man and said, "I want an Elvis haircut. Can you make my hair like Elvis?" I asked him, with a great big smile on my face. "Let's just see what we can do for you, little man," he said. I was so happy when he started to cut my hair. Just as he started to cut my hair, the matron motioned for him to come over to where she was standing. She whispered something into his ear, and then he shook his head back and forth like he was telling her no. She walked over to another man who was sitting in a small office and said something to him. Then the little man walked over and said something to the barber who was cutting my hair. The next thing I knew, the barber who was going to cut my hair told me that they were not allowed to give us orphans Elvis haircuts. In the large mirror, I saw him put this black comb thing onto the end of the clippers. Then I saw all my hair falling onto the floor each time he made a swipe across my head. When he finished shaving off all my hair, he made me smell real good with his powder stuff. Then he handed me a nickel and told me to go outside to the cracker machine and buy myself a candy bar. I handed him the nickel back and told him that I was not hungry. "I'm sorry, baby," said the barber as I climbed out of the barber chair. "I'm not a baby," I said as I wiped the tears from my eyes. I sat down on the floor and brushed the hair off my new Buster Brown shoes so they would stay shiny and new. I got up off the floor and brushed off my short pants and walked toward the door. The matron was smiling at me sort of funny-like. The man who had cut my hair walked over to her and said, "You're just a damn bitch, lady." She yelled back at him, and then she walked toward the office. The barber man hit the wall with his hand as hard as he could. Then he walked outside, where he stood against the brick wall, smoking a cigarette. I walked outside and stood beside of him, and I didn't say a word. for fear of crying. He looked down. He smiled at me, then he patted me on the top of my bald head. With tears running down my cheeks, I looked up at him and said, "Would you happen to know if Elvis has green bones like me?"